Parallel lines. This is from 4.7. This will be out of our textbook. And what we're going to take a look at is slopes of parallel lines and how to write an equation for two lines that are parallel. But first, before we can get started with that, we want to examine the slopes of parallel lines. So that's what this first screen is for. And notice I have a blue line and a red line. And if I'm going to count the slope here, let's take a look at how we count these slopes. And so I'm going to count the slope on these two lines. And I'll show you what the slopes are, and then I'll be explaining to you how we can declare them to be parallel. So again, let's look at these two lines. I'm looking from this point right here where I have this big old block, square, and I'm going to go to here. So I have two spots that are on pluses that is going to allow me to count the slope on this blue line. So I'm going to count, and I'm going to count, here's 1, 2 going up, and 1, 2, 3 going over. So I have a slope on the blue line of 2 up 2 over 3. And on the red line, let's take a look now at this one. Since I found the slope on the blue line, I again have another spot right here. I got that square sitting on top of a plus. And here's another spot where the red line crosses a plus. So I'm going to count those. And I'm going to go up 1, 2, and over 1, 2, 3. So this line has a slope of 2/3. If two lines are moving at the same speed, up 2 over 3, and they start in a different place, they will never touch. And therefore, they are deemed to be parallel. So these are two parallel lines. Parallel lines have the same slope. You might want to write that down. Parallel lines have the same slope. So this would be a good thing to write down. Parallel lines have different y-intercepts. Two things you need to remember about parallel lines. Same slope, different y-intercepts. The blue line crosses right now at 1, 2, 3. The red line, if I keep drawing this down, will cross in between 0 and 1. And that means it crosses the y-axis at a different spot. So that means we have different intercepts. Parallel lines have the same slope, different y-intercepts. What I want you to be able to do when we get done with this is I'm going to ask that you be able to write a slope-intercept equation for a parallel line drawn through a point. So at this point, if you don't have a piece of graph paper, get a piece of graph paper, and you're going to draw a graph like I have here. Pause the video, and I want you to draw the graph that I have here. That I have drawn is a line that has a slope of -2, and its y-intercept is +1. So this blue line, the equation for it is y equals -2x plus 1. And on your paper, I want you to draw that line going through on the graph paper. Make your xy axis, draw this line, and then we're going to plot this point up here. And this point right now, this point happens to be the point 2, 4. So you need to plot the point 2, 4. Pause the video, make your xy axis, plot this point 2, 4. Okay, going on now. What is the next thing that I want you to be able to do? I want you, since you have drawn the line, and we've drawn our point, now we can kind of see that on the graph. Okay, so now we take a look at our point, and I'm going to say, okay, the direction in your book will read something like this. It will say, write a slope-intercept form of an equation for the line that passes through the given point and is parallel to the graph. So they're saying we want to draw a line through this red dot and that it's parallel to the blue line. So as we introduced back in this slide, parallel lines have the same slope. So I have to be making a graph that has the same slope. So on your graph right now, let's do this. Let's look at the first line. We have the equation y equals -2x plus 1. Y equals -2x plus 1. Okay, I need to, when I'm going to write this equation, I need to use the slope off of the first equation. So my slope here, my slope is -2. That's m. And my y-intercept on the first one is +1, but parallel lines have different y-intercepts. So what do we do if we know a point and a slope? We'll use our point slope formula. So I want to bring out this formula, and I would suggest that you write this formula down on your piece of graph paper that you have in front of you right now. That's y minus y1 equals x equals the slope times x minus x1. So we're going to use the point slope formula now to write our new equation. So we're going to try to find out the equation for this line that goes through here. All right, so I have a slope of a -2 and I have the point 24. So I will write my new equation as y minus, and my y number is 4, y minus 4 equals slope. My slope's right there in the first equation of the other line. So it's -2. And then I say x minus, and x1 is 2. So I put a 2 in there. There's my point slope form. Now I'm supposed to write this in slope intercept form. So I'm not there yet. So I need to distribute the -2 to x and -2 to -2. So I'm going to do some equation work. Y minus 4 equals -2 x, and -2 times -2 is +4. All right. Next, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Draw my line. Y equals -2x, and positive 4 plus 4 is +8. And there's my answer. This is the equation of the line that would go through this dot. So notice now I put my work right next to this equation, didn't I? Right next to the equation work is right next to the graph. So my work is right next to the graph because you will be using this equation to then later draw the line through this point on the graph that you have. The first activity is graphing the line that you're given in the book. Graph the given line that you equation in the book, and then you graph the point, and then you're going to write the equation just like I did here. So you make an XY axis, you graph the equation, graph the point, and then you write the new equation. Again, slope, use point slope form. Slope comes from the equation here. These 2 and 4 comes from the equation, the dot or the point you're given in the book. So what we're going to do is this. Okay, I'll type up a little list here for you for your assignment. And what we're going to do is this. All right, from page 239, we're going to do numbers 1, 2, 3, and 10 through 16. So what you need to do first is 1, graph the equation and the point. 2, use the point slope, or not use it, but we'll write a point slope. Write a point slope equation. Use the slope from the line you graphed and the point you graphed. Third, turn the point slope equation into slope intercept form. When you get done with that, check your answers from my book. And the reason you want to do that is just to make sure that you have the correct equations there. Show me when you get done with that. You won't be turning it in because you'll have to do the second activity. You're going to do 2 activities on this graph. Okay, so I'll leave this here for just a few seconds. I would suggest you might keep that up on the iPad in front of you or on the computer in front of you, or you can write it down in your notebook. Please let me know what I can help you with.